In graphic design, art, and in fact in any visual medium, a viewer's perception is shaped by figure-ground relationships. We separate figures, or forms, from the space, colour, or patterns that surround them. We see letters against a page, a building in relation to its site, and a sculpture against its environment that surrounds and defines it. A dark shape on a dark field is not visible. Without separation and contrast, form disappears completely. Form, or figure, which constitutes the main content of a design, is always experienced in relation to the space that it occupies and to the other forms that are perhaps present in the layout. This is what's known as the figure-ground relationship, where figure refers to any object in a given space and ground refers to the background or the space in which that object is seen. Another way to talk about this relationship is in terms of negative and positive space. Visual elements are therefore always seen in relation to a visual field, a background, or a frame. In other words, every form is seen in context and cannot be totally isolated. Generally speaking, a form is considered to be positive and the space around it negative. The space within a format, the ground, is an extremely important element of any design and not just something left over once a form is placed on it. It matters within the overall design since the ground affects the figure and vice versa. Usually we tend to notice the figure before we see the ground, or what is in a space before we see the space. So the figure ground, also known as positive and negative space, is at work in all facets of graphic design in particular. When creating logotypes and symbols, designers often distill complex meaning into simplified but significant forms. The resulting marks often thrive on the interplay between figure and ground, solid and void. In posters, layouts, and screen designs, what's left out frames and balances explicit forms. This is the figure-ground relationship. However, there's a well-known example where this relationship becomes confused or perhaps ambiguous. It's drawn from Gestalt psychology, specifically the well-known example of the Rubin vase. It's a little bit of a visual trick. We either see two human faces facing one another, or we see an illustration of a vase defined by organic curvilinear shapes. So the ability to create and evaluate effective figure-ground tension is an essential skill for graphic designers, artists, motion designers, and so on. We train our eye to carve out white space as we compose with various forms. We learn to massage the positive and negative areas as we adjust the scale and distribution and layout of images and topography. Ultimately, we look at the shapes each element makes and we see if the edges frame a void that is equally appealing.